He said it was a dangerous thing to get too close to China.
Do you agree?
Oh, I'm very nervous. I'm very, very nervous about the extent to which China has effectively spied on us, stolen, many of our industrial secrets. I'm worried about the extent to which they've infiltrated, using money, British universities. We must be cautious about the relationship. But I think what the Starmer trip shows you is that his mindset is where we were 10 years ago. 10 years ago, David Cameron thought China was the great future for this country. Everything's changed in that last decade. Keir Starmer hasn't.
So would you reverse any trade deals or any agreements that he's had?
Well, I don't think we should be doing any trade deals until a British citizen, Jimmy Lai, is let out of prison. The fact that a guy on Hong Kong who ran a free press, it wasn't propaganda, it was a free press sheet, has now been kept for 5 years in solitary confinement in Hong Kong. This is a British citizen. It is the job of British governments to stand up and defend them. So before we sign anything, let's free people like him.
Starmer's visit to China was not in our national interest. He has gone there pretty much with a begging bowl, got pretty much nothing back. This is a country that even our security services have said is a threat to us. Of course, we trade with China, but what he has done has, in my view, weakened the UK in the eyes of China, and it was wrong for him to go. Well, the US is our closest military ally and a key strategic partner. They are not a threat to the UK's national security. China is who the threat to national security is, and we need to be very clear about that and not start getting confused. The President of the United States is one individual. Our relationship is with the country. What we're seeing with Labour is an economic policy wholly dependent on China. Wind turbines from China, solar panels from China, batteries for electric vehicles from China, while deindustrializing our own country. I think that's completely wrong.
Well, Donald Trump is a hypocrite because he's going to China himself. And he's the most dangerous person at the moment with undermining NATO and undermining trade across the world. But it's the Conservatives also who have got a real question to answer. They don't want us to talk to China. They don't want to do trade with Europe. And now they realise that Trump's America can't be trusted because of the tariffs. I thought the Conservatives were for global Britain. They clearly aren't. They don't want to talk to anybody. Well, Liberal Democrats believe we do need to talk to China, absolutely, but we also need to do that from a position of strength, which is where the current Labour government is going wrong. If we had a new trading relationship with Europe, a customs union, as the Liberal Democrats have argued, we'd be able to talk to China about improving our economic relations, but also to call China out for its human rights abuses, what it does to Hong Kongers, to the illegal detention of Jimmy Lai. These are the sorts of issues that we should be raising, but I'm afraid this government's so weak because it hasn't got a European deal.
The issue with this visit is it comes after 18 months of sustained hostile acts against our country. Cyber attacks, putting a spy at the heart of our parliament, the torture and imprisonment of Jimmy Lai, British national. And so what message that sends is it doesn't matter what you do to our country, we will reward you with a propaganda visit to Beijing. So actually, yes, it is dangerous because it signals the end of deterrence, and we should be really concerned about that. The idea that because of actions from the White House that we do not appreciate and should not be happening, that we should jump into the bed of an autocratic communist regime, I'm sorry, is for the birds. But also the government is being very misleading on their arguments about how big of a trading partner China is for us. There is a trade surplus for China of 38 billion that is in our favour. They buy from us, and actually good exports, in fact exports overall from the UK to China, are down between 27 to 40% under this government. So actually what I want to see Keir Starmer do is recognise that we have heft in this relationship. We are not a small country, we are a significant one. And to have gone to China saying, we have preconditions. You said we had to approve the Chinese Communist Party embassy. He shouldn't have done it, but he did. But where were our preconditions, which should have been the release of Jimmy Lai and a reduction in hostile acts against our country in the months leading up to the visit, or even the release of sanctioning against British MPs? But he achieved none of those and came back with measly deals that had already been given to the French and German, and if I'm honest, do not make us safer or economically stronger. the individuals have been found not guilty. But a couple of years ago, I was called into parliamentary security and sat down, and there was an individual from the Secret Services and from the Metropolitan Police Service, and they informed me that yes, I had been spied on over the last few years by an individual who was running a research team that I was chair of. The Crown Prosecution Service has also put in writing that I was spied on. But I'm proud of that because actually it shows that I was doing the actions that the Chinese Communist Party recognised were stopping them from securing their goals in making Britain weaker and more vulnerable to their hostile influence. So I make no apologies for the work I've done. I will continue to work to protect Britain. And yes, I'm very, very disappointed that I ever had to come across those individuals, but I will not be stopped from working to try and protect us. There is no question that I would not welcome any visit by Xi Jinping to the UK. The idea that we should be bringing him here and what? Am I, as an MP, going to expect to go and listen to him speak to us in Parliament and tell me about how great their democracy is? Look, Keir Starmer's been really keen over the last few days to try and say that he's got to fix the broken relationship the Conservatives left him with China. That is abdicating the Chinese Communist Party's responsibility for why we had to change the relationship. We cancelled trade talks in 2019 because they were cracking down on human rights and democracy in Hong Kong. We stripped Huawei and stopped them from buying Newport wafer fab because they were trying to undermine our critical national infrastructure. Is he really saying that we should have allowed all those things to happen, let alone the activities in Xinjiang and everything else, with no repercussions? We're not like him. We are not going to give them free rein in our country, and I would not accept a visit. The problem is that Labour would open the door to China and allow them to stamp all over us. In contrast, I think we need dialogue with China, but there should be clear parameters. We should have clear requirements, but that put national security first. But also, the Chinese communists are very transactional. So let's go sector by sector when we talk about dialogue and engagement with them. But if the Prime Minister is scared to even say Jimmy Lai's name while he is in China, imagine how his family is feeling today. And so no, we shouldn't just open these doors willy-nilly. And the reality is we can work with partners across the world, but the idea that we need to embrace autocrats, I mean, no British person listening to this would say that's acceptable. We were actually expecting it to be approved while they were in China. That was one of the big things that Keir Starmer wanted to be announced. I'm pleased to see that they've paused on that. Let's see if they paused meaningfully about it or because they felt under too much pressure. But no, we should be really cautious. This is the same country that tried to take over our semiconductor factories, and I worked very hard to stop them. Obviously, we had Huawei. We've seen them put listening devices in number 10 and MOD vehicles, and now also in cranes. We should be really cautious before we let China anywhere near our critical national infrastructure, and I will always maintain that position. I want green energy. I'm a big believer in offshore wind and also onshore wind. I'm a supporter of them. I've constantly called for it. I got my government to change the policy to allow it to be brought back onshore. But it has to be the right countries, because otherwise what happens? We end up in hock to the Chinese Communist Party, who can switch on or switch off our energy, and that makes us too vulnerable.